beating a drum, and they walk to the fence and are arrested. That's my church. And you know, when a lot of us were cuffed, including myself, it turns out those cops were in the National Guard, and they were in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they would whisper, "Keep protesting the wars." And you can be sure the state is terrified. And that's why nonviolent resistance is so important, because it speaks to what is best among us, even what is best among those who are tasked with carrying out control for the state. And it is Havel's living in truth. And so those moments, marching on Goldman Sachs, and I've long ago given up trying to look hip, and so I look like this, and I'm marching off to Goldman Sachs. Cornel West and I had just held a people's hearing of Goldman Sachs. We're marching off to block the entrance. There's a picture of us walking towards Goldman Sachs, and I'm in the middle, and everybody around me is pierced, tattooed, with mohawks, and I have my Brooks Brothers button-down shirt. But boy, I'll tell you, that's where my hope lies, is with those kids. They get it, and they were out there, and they were on that street, and they were struggling, and they were paying homage to voices that they knew the wider society had excluded. And we can criticize Occupy as we can criticize anything. But it was a seismic event in American history. That Occupy movement, which was a tactic, has spread its tentacles into Black Lives Matter, into Jet Jubilee, into the attempt to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And if the state thinks that these people have gone away, then they're very naive and very stupid.
I thought your vision of revolution was very interesting, but it also seemed very general. Do you have any more specific vision about how such a thing would start, how it would expand, how it would reach the goals you're looking for?
The day after the climate change march, about 4,000, I was there, went down to Battery Park for Flood Wall Street. Now, what we did on Flood Wall Street is unlike the climate change march, which kept within the police barricades. Look, there are streets. It's not their streets. It's not their streets. They can't tell us where to go on our streets. They can try, and they can make it painful for us, but we can't let them. And Flood Wall Street, without a permit, walked onto those streets. And we didn't know, if it was Bloomberg, we wouldn't have gotten a block. We didn't know what de Blasio was going to do. But we walked onto those streets, and we shut that street down in front of the stock exchange for the day. And that's what we got to start doing, but not just one day. We got to start crippling the entire system. Sustained acts of mass civil disobedience. This is what happened in Europe. Once you start pulling 500,000 people, they start getting scared. And I know, because I unfortunately have family members on Wall Street, and in real time, all through Occupy, they were getting tweets every few minutes. They have puppets. They're going down the street. Oh, they're turning on Bond Street. Oh, you know, they have and so all the titans of the universe were like eating lunch at their desk and not going outside. I mean, Occupy was basically white, college-educated, dumpster diving kids who do yoga. And I know, because my family's got connected, that they were really, really frightened. Because they thought they'd been found out. Because nobody knows how corrupt the system is. I mean, or the people who most know how corrupt are them. They know how rotten it is. And they are cynical, and they are looting as much, as fast as they can on the way down. And it's all about greed. If I hear Obama give me another speech about education, I mean, the people who got us into this mess are the best educated people in the country. Larry Summers. The problem is greed. And internally, the system itself has no esprit de corps. It's rotten. It's rotten in every single way, including ideologically. And those New York City cops who get $37 an hour to stand in the lobbies and watch these guys go by in their $8,000 suits, they know how rotten it is. The system is very fragile. Systems that collapse instantly. The monolith, it appears, the superstructure appears intact, but it is exactly what Berkman or Gramsci wrote about. The ideological underpinnings, the will to power, all of that is being sucked out of this system, which means it's actually very weak. And that's why it keeps resorting to force, because it doesn't have anything else.
Hi. So you've said a lot about how citizens can reclaim power within the United States. I'm wondering, when it comes to foreign affairs, clearly the U.S. government has a lot of coercive influence all over the world. But a lot of commentators have suggested that that is in decline. And one example I've seen is the fact that there's now a China-based infrastructure bank that a lot of U.S. allies are joining, even though the U.S. forbid them from doing it. And so what I'm wondering is, do you think that U.S. foreign coercive influence is actually in decline, or do you think that's still largely in the future?
We're dying the way all empires die. We're expanding beyond our ability to sustain ourselves. We've lost the war in Iraq. Iraq as a unified country is never coming back. I mean, everybody kept saying, what's worse than Saddam Hussein? You know what's worse? ISIS. We've lost Afghanistan. It's over. We've lost those wars, and we squandered, what's it up to, $7 trillion? Imagine if we had spent that on green energy, alternative energy, the real crisis that faces the planet. And this is how empires die. They're led by idiots like Dick Cheney, or a military establishment. I mean, the most dangerous institution in America is the military industrial complex, which is killing us all. You're not allowed, by the way, to measure carbon emissions from the military. It's not measured. And we have squandered resources we should have spent saving ourselves on utterly futile, illegal wars. Preemptive war under post-Nuremberg laws is a criminal act of aggression. And that, unfortunately is what happens when elites seize control, because the fact is the population doesn't want the wars. But who wants the wars? Raytheon, Halliburton, Northrop Grumman, because it's, as Smedley Butler said, war is a racket. And they're making a fortune off it. They don't care how many. That's why they want to bomb Syria, because every cruise missile is another $1 million. They don't care how many Iraqis or Afghanis even Americans, they don't care how many die. Their stocks have quadrupled since 9/11, and they'll just keep it going. And that's the only reason these is the longest wars in U.S. history. It's the only reason they're still going on. There's this cabal is making big money at it. And it's our money. So get rid of them. Thanks.